So we're going to be talking about how to use Procreate, the Procreate app, to do a drawing and some perspective. Last week we talked about eye level, and this is kind of a continuation of eye level. But I thought it'd be fun to do it on the iPad since this is the newer technology. So we're going to open a new document by clicking on the plus button. Screen size, and with your two fingers you can do this business. Just using Procreate in general, I want to show you a few things that you can do. I'm going to add a couple layers in here, and let's say you had an idea that you wanted to do a drawing of a boat out on the ocean, okay? You'd select a brush. This will be fine. I'm going to start a sketch. So I want I'm going to make the transparency of my brush at about 30%. Yeah, that's good. So this is kind of my underdrawing, my initial under sketch. And I might say, oh, I want a horizon right here. I'm going to make a frame. I think I want a little island out here. And then I think my boat's going to be like in this area. Maybe a couple sharks or something. And so now you could come in and go to the next layer. And we're going to refine this, so I'm going to make my marker a little bit smaller and a little bit darker. And so now I'm doing kind of more of I think I'm going to lighten that other layer. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go back to my layer, and back to my brush. And let's say I decide I wanted to move that island so it's going part of the way off of the picture. Take the sharks out, put a few clouds in. Okay. Now I can go back into layers and turn that under layer off. And let's say I want to put some color in. I'll take this layer, move it underneath here, and let's put in a nice blue sky. Make my brush a lot bigger. And let's say I want to work on the cloud a little bit. Make it kind of a warm whitish kind of color. Make my brush a little smaller. So you get the idea. You can work in these layers. You can do different things. Okay, I think that's enough for that. So now I want to show you, I'm going to turn those layers off and open up another layer. And I want to go into some perspective. So I'm going to go over into the tools, and I'm turn on the drawing guide. And inside the drawing guide now, there are some different options. Wait a second. I want to edit the drawing guide. So you won't have this option on the other iPads, only the iPad 6 will have this option. So I have to turn on perspective. This will automatically go to perspective on all the iPads that we have here except the iPad 6. So I'm in perspective. If I tap here, it puts in a horizon and a vanishing point. I can move the vanishing point. I can put it outside of the picture or in the picture. If I tap here, I can have a second vanishing point. I can make this really small if I want, and tap here and put in even a third vanishing point if I wanted to do 3-point perspective. But I just want to do 2-point perspective, so I'm going to turn that off, come back to here. I want to make my lines as thick as possible and as dark as possible so it's easier to see. So you can see I have 2 vanishing points, and it created this kind of web of lines. You see that, John? Okay. Now I'm finished with that, so I'm going to turn that off. So basically now I'm just in regular drawing mode again, but I've got these guidelines, all right? So let's say I wanted to put in a road and a building, okay? I got this idea like the one I showed you, and I want to put some streets in and some buildings. Okay, I got to get a brush. I'm going to go to black. I got a brush. I'm going to make it pretty small and very dark. So let's see if that works. That's a little bit too heavy. That's better. So to make my road that goes into the distance, I can start anywhere and just scribble out a line, and if you hold it, it'll snap. And then you can turn it any way you want. Okay? So what I want to do, since I'm going in this direction, is I want to make this line as parallel as possible with these other lines that I can see, those guidelines. And then if I come over here and I put in my other line, at first you can just scribble, and then it snaps into place. Then you just want to try to get it parallel to the lines you can see on the guide. It doesn't matter if you go too far because we can come back later and erase that. Now to put my building in, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to pick like a spot here where I want to put the base of my building. So I'm going to draw a line going this way, keep it parallel, and I'm going to stop right about there. Line going this way, let it snap, make it parallel. Line going this way, let it snap, get it parallel with the other lines. Can you see that, everybody? And finally, a line going this way, let it snap, and then I'll pull it till it's parallel. Now I got to clean this up. This is going to be where my building meets the ground. That's called the footprint of the building. So I want to get my eraser tool, take out some of these excesses that I did. Okay, so that's where my building meets the ground, okay? Now I want to go back to my brush tool. And since I'm doing 2-point perspective, all my height lines are just going to stay parallel with the sides of the iPad, okay? So I need a height line from here. Let it snap, hopefully get it parallel with the sides. So in other words, I'm not following a guideline because I don't have a vanishing point for the height lines. So I'm just going to make them straight vertical. I'm going to put these in even though we won't be able to. So from this corner, I want to go this way, let it snap, get it parallel with all these other lines I see. Let it snap, get it parallel. Now again, I've got some erasing to do. And then you can turn off the perspective guide. I should put the horizon in, so something like that. Okay? And then you can go from there. You combine this with what I showed you initially, where you can put color in and shading, and you can do all sorts of interesting things with perspective. Okay? If I wanted to do the interior of a room, let's try that real quick. I'll turn that layer off, turn on a new layer, turn on the perspective guide again. I want to edit it. I'm going to delete one of the vanishing points. I'm going to move this one to here. So back in the edit mode, 1 point perspective. So hit done. And in 1 point perspective, my height lines and my width lines will stay parallel with the top and bottom and sides of the canvas. The only lines I'm going to distort are going to be my depth lines. So, because in 3D, there's 3 dimensions, height, width, depth. So I'm going to put in 2 height lines, one here. Height lines are just going to stay parallel with the sides. Another one here. 2 width lines, trying to keep it parallel with the top of the iPad. Another one down here. So I've built a rectangle. Let's clean up some of these corners. And so now I want to put in the walls and the ceiling of my room. So get my brush again, start here, draw a line, let it snap, and then just make it parallel with these other lines. Start here, draw a line, let it snap, make it parallel. Let it snap, make it parallel. Oops. Okay, so that's what the interior of a room would look like. Let's put a window in just for fun. A height line, parallel with the sides. Another height line, parallel with the sides. And a depth line going to the vanishing point. And another depth line going towards the vanishing point. And I'll use the eraser to come in and tidy things up a little bit. So this is the eye level. So what did we talk about? As things are going away from you, if they're coming up, they're below your eye level. As things are going away from you, if they're coming down, they're above your eye level. Okay? Okay, we're going to start talking about how to make an animated GIF. So rather than draw each of the spots and take all that time, I'm just going to turn these layers back on. Each layer represents a frame. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it bounces. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then we go over to the wrench
icon to share, and then we're going to scroll down and share as an animated GIF. And that gives you a little version of the GIF. You can slow it down if you like. That's a little too slow. Or you can speed it up. And then we just hit full resolution and it exports it. And from there you can save it or mail it or something like that. So I'm going to email it to my son, Chris. Boom. And that is how to make an animated GIF on Procreate, in the Procreate app.